Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023, the test of faith. In Genesis 22, we see Abraham being tested by God. In fact, in Genesis 22, verse 1, it says, "And after these things," well, what is that there for? Well, that's there to remind us of all the things that Abraham had gone through up to that point. Now, could you imagine in Abraham's mind, as he's an older man, that he's thinking, there's one more trial I need to go through? And there isn't just one more trial, it's the trial. This is the test of all tests. If you recall, God had put Abraham through many tests prior to the test. And Abraham failed the tests and he passed some of the tests. As he has gotten older, he's gotten wiser, he's believed God's promises more, his faith is growing. And then we come to Genesis 22, and Abraham is asked by God to do the hardest thing that he will ever have to undergo. That is, Abraham, I want you to take your son of promise and I want you to sacrifice him. I want to see if you love the promise more than you love the promise giver. Do you love the things more than you love the one who gives you those things? Do you love the stuff or do you love me? And this was a test that Abraham struggled with, but he struggled moving forward in obedience. He ultimately obeyed what God had called him to do. And it wasn't a hesitation, but could you imagine the angst inside of him, the struggle? This is my son. Not only is this my son, but this is the son of promise. This is the one for whom the Messiah is going to come through. And you want me to sacrifice him. God, please help me. And God helped him. And Abraham was strong in his faith at that point, where he believed God and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Abraham knew that God would provide. He said to his men at the bottom of the mountain, I'll be back with the boy. God will provide, even if I do kill him, as God is commanding me to do. God is able to raise him from the dead. Now, why do I bring this story up? Well, the same can be said in our lives. After these things, we can find ourselves coasting after trials or thinking, whew, thank goodness that's over with. I'm sure I don't have another one coming for a while, or maybe hopefully no more at all. And yet, that isn't the case. We say we want to be like Christ, and we do. That is our heart's desire, and that is the Spirit's work in our lives. And yet, Christ endured suffering and hardship and pain. And so, like Christians, we are growing in suffering and pain. And those points of testing where you think that God has abandoned you or you feel like you're alone, no, God is growing you and He's growing me. And He grows us in many ways, not just suffering, but in the case of our faith being tested and tried, this is where He forges us, where He conforms us into the image of Christ and He strips us to a nub. And He reminds us that He is all we have and He is all we need. And so this morning, if you find yourself in a time of testing and you just went through testing, I can't promise you when it will end, but I can promise you that if your faith is in Christ, He will keep you to the end. So keep looking to Christ. Well, I pray you have a blessed day in the Lord. Grace and peace.